There's not going to be so much a script for this. This isn't even for the public per se, but I am just don't care. I understand a lot of people have like HIPAA concerns, and I'm just not really one of them at this point. So this is about my medical history. I recently got out of the ER, um, and I told them not to let me go because I just couldn't do this again. I can't live my whole life in hospitals. Um, so I'm thinking the next time I work with a doctor, they're just gonna have to watch this video, and if they won't, then oh well. Um, um, I suppose I should go body part by body part and list the symptoms would make the most sense. But I'll talk a little bit about my story. Let's start. Um, let's go in a rather strange chronological order, starting with a couple weeks ago, whenever it was. I have a really hard time remembering things now. I guess it was less than a week ago. I feel like there was something that led up to this. So I guess I'll start with just a brief summary. I felt fine-ish. You know, things were harder for me than they were for other people up until um, maybe I was 22 years old. I was born in May 27th, 1989, so that would have been, I don't know, 89 plus 22, 2011 maybe. Um, I struggled a lot with just basic things, but I don't know that I noticed any medical symptoms of serious concern. Um, and then I went a bit mad. Um, the diagnosis, it seems to be right, was psychotic episodes. Fuck, I'm speaking loud enough. So they were psychotic episodes about that. Bad ones. Bad, I guess. Really wasn't thinking clearly. Had a hard time communicating. Didn't present myself well. Didn't communicate well. Didn't get along with people. One of my symptoms I could talk about is schizoid personality disorder, assuming you believe that's a disorder, which a lot of experts don't actually. But I really just didn't want to be around anyone, and I still largely that's true today. Um, but this was really about when that started. I did a lot of meditating during this time because I really did get a lot of time to myself, which was nice. I did a lot of meditating, maybe like 6 to 8 hours a day on average for over a year and a half, 2 years, and that was really nice. Really set me up for the next part of my life, which was um, having to struggle with nothing, having to get by, um, and the insanity. Uh, I suppose in a way I was prepared for what was going to come next over the next 12 years. I'm 34 and a half now. Um, this video is being recorded October 20th, 2023. Um, uh, which was that just like the things I observed were not observed by the people around me. My reality did not check out with the reality of other people. I would frequently observe things and simply be told it wasn't true. Uh, Although to my credit, other people would years later, especially on the news, report those same things several years later. And I guess the lead up to NARO among men is that over dozens or maybe even hundreds or thousands of instances of those things happening, I finally gained the confidence to say I think I actually do have something to say. And then it took another 2 or 3 years to get somebody to help me with the technology. But so my first complaint, other than the schizophrenic symptoms, was pneumonia. I've had pneumonia once. I had chronic bronchitis. I can get to that in a little bit. Well, all right. I had chronic bronchitis throughout most of my teenage years, maybe starting at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, somewhere in there, all the way up until I was about 21, 22 years old. Chronic bronchitis every year in the winter, around December, January. Every year, like clockwork. Once I had pneumonia. Only once did it turn into pneumonia, but it was, awful. But with that said, that was my first complaint. Was that I've had pneumonia before. It feels just like pneumonia. Weeks of sitting in bed, not wanting to do anything, too tired to move, definitely can't work, cough, phlegm, wet cough, shortness of breath, literally every symptom. And after several weeks, months of actually literally laying in bed and not doing anything, my family started basically just telling me they weren't going to put up with me staying in bed all day. So that was helpful. So I didn't. But I still have that same issue. It still hasn't gone away. I haven't stopped complaining about that. And I have several other minor issues. I guess they're on this. Around that time, I filled out this differential diagnosis. I learned about differential diagnosis and did my own because I was determined to beat this thing. This was 2 weeks before my birthday ago, 2 birthdays ago. So we're in 2021, about mid-May. Because what I remember is 2 weeks had passed already of me laying in bed, which was somewhat normal. Sometimes it got so bad I still spent a couple weeks in bed. Frequently a couple days or a week in bed. But never longer than 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, I was always able to be okay somehow. Enough to at least do the basic things I needed to take care of. Work my few hour a week job. Make the basic minimum requirements to my family and friends. And shower and stuff. Basic minimum was pretty much my game for a decade. Up in 2 weeks before so I'll just say mid-May of 2021, things really took a turn for the worse then. And after a couple weeks, I still wasn't better. Several weeks had gone by and I still wasn't better. I wound up in to see my primary care physician, and she just still could not find anything wrong with me. But the paperwork said if it didn't get better to call again. So we went through that a few times, and finally she ordered me a full body CT scan, and insurance came back and forced it to be just an abdominal CT scan, which I've recently found out how expensive CT scans are, and I don't really understand what the issue is, but because they're a few $1,000s, it's not $10,000 or anything. But either way, what I was really hoping for was a brain scan, because at this point I was already thinking what I still think, which is that I have two different issues, two different life-threatening issues. One is Wilson's disease, very serious neurological disorder that looks like Parkinson's, that looks like schizophrenia. but acts very similar to Parkinson's. Um, there's also a thing called a Parkinsonian um, that also has the symptoms very similar to Wilson's disease, but with the red skin. You can kind of see it, and I don't know if I can show you on camera because this isn't a great camera, but maybe I can figure this out. Can you see? That's not great. Here, see, like, it's red in my neck, and then just below that it's white, it's pale. Red, pale, and then it's pale, red. It's like a farmer's tan. It's sensitivity to light. It's not red skin. It was. Oh well. Only people really interested in me and doctors should be watching this anyway. So, I forgot where I was at. Oh, I think it's Wilson's disease and a serious lung infection. So this became way worse mid-May 2021, and then I was experiencing a lot of kidney pain, well, lower abdominal pain, specifically right here, where there's nothing except for a kidney, and also, but right here, and it's almost the same pain. And I was having a lot of GI issues. I don't like talking about because it's gross. But either way, they got me this abdominal CT scan, and I had a really strange encounter with this. I should probably mention this. Right off the bat, somebody called me and said, it should take 48 hours normally, but yours is going to take longer because we're going to send out for a second opinion. We see some kidney damage that looks like it could be Parkinson's, and we want a second opinion on this. Well, a few days later, just like he promised, somebody called and said, no, it's all clear. Everything's good. A few days after that, this is the week after that now, I got a weird phone call of, it was staticky and broke up and started before the voicemail beep, but I showed this to my psychiatrist at the time and my brother, and it's go and kind of just cuts out after that. It was really bizarre, but it made me think, maybe there's a conspiracy, maybe there's like kidney failure, and they realize I'm just gonna die. And this was at least a year ago, probably a year ago. I don't remember exactly. It'd be in my medical file. So that's like around October of 2022. And I'm guessing they just thought I was gonna die, and nobody would ask me any questions. It would just be like a tragedy, which sucks. But so here it is now. We're in October. This was around the beginning of September, maybe somewhere in August. It took another turn for the worse. And now what I'm feeling is starvation. And almost none of my symptoms have ever gone away. That's another thing that's really irritating. I was on risperidone for a while. I can get to that in a minute. But after a few weeks on risperidone, my insomnia that I lived with my whole life just disappeared, essentially. I had really, really bad insomnia, and it was just cured, which is magnificent. But to be honest, that's the only symptom that I can think of that has ever gone away, really. I have symptoms like tinnitus, which I get like every 6 months, but then maybe it'll be a year or two, and then before I get it again. Like the bronchitis, the chronic bronchitis, like I had bronchitis for almost a whole year, but then I'll get it again. I have a lot of like cyclic symptoms like that, but nothing has ever stopped that I can recall. Well, I don't have chronic bronchitis anymore, which is an interesting thing I can get to, but that doesn't have anything to do with medicine, really. At least I can't see why it would. which is more evidence of an infection of the lungs. But um, uh, took turn for the worse. Had quite an adventure. They did an X-ray of my abdomen after 6 months again. This was, I don't know, April of this year. I complained I still wasn't feeling better. And after that, I don't really recall. I started canceling doctor's appointments. My psychiatrist had me read something. She put me on a new drug, and I wound up going off of that. She had me read this whole thing about this child. It's safe for kids. It's good. It's a really weak antipsychotic. We're just gonna put you on a low dosage. You seem anxious, so we're gonna keep you on. I'm on hydroxyzine for anxiety. It's kind of like Xanax, just as needed. Um, and kind of want one of those now. I lost my train of thought again. Okay, let's just start way back when. When I was a kid, there was a lot of abuse, physical abuse, by my father. So frontal lobe damage is something to consider. Um, Other than that, the only relevant issue is that there's some black mold I found in this house. This house is the house I lived in when I was a very small child. Um, and there's some mold on one of the walls in the bathroom that looks like black mold. And so I can skip ahead several years, and I started playing sports, and they wound up diagnosing me with, I guess I have an eye issue too. I don't really understand it. It looks like a lazy eye. As far as anyone else is concerned, it's a lazy eye, but ophthalmologists and pediatricians um, say it's not a lazy eye. It's something to do with a weakness of muscle, asymmetrical muscle use. So one of my eyes, when I was a kid, I just wouldn't use. And still to this day, I only use one of my eye. I can't use 3D glasses, but you can't tell anything, even if I take the glasses off. They just look normal. Um, that was after a lot, like years and years of exercises with my eyes. Um, but the sports-induced asthma is what they called it, which didn't really make any sense to me. I never really bothered with the inhaler. I never noticed any significant difference. I don't have an inhaler today, although I probably should. I could probably get one. I never thought of it, but it never seemed like it was a crucial issue. So then the chronic bronchitis, and I noticed these are like lung issues consistently. Bronchitis, and then once it turned into pneumonia, but every year it had to be treated. Um, these are like the only issues I had as a kid, basically, up until 18 years old or so, and they're all lung based. So now all these issues, once I was 22, 21, 23 or so, all just disappeared. And the insomnia. And also serious mental illnesses, depression. I reported being suicidal at about 12 years old, not for any reason. I just didn't like life very much. They didn't love that, and they still don't love it when I say it today. I'm probably just going to start lying about it, actually, if anybody asks, because it really trips people out. I just had this general like unhappiness, and I'm sure the like abuse and poverty didn't help either. But really, there wasn't any like signs of like illness per se, like a disorder. Just that I wasn't happy. So, in case you're wondering, I really don't feel that way today. I still feel like suicidal because I'm in pain all the time. And I really just don't have any quality of life. Even if I were just to miraculously get better, I don't have any quality of life to look forward to. And I really just don't want to put up with it. I don't even feel like it's an issue. Dr. Tolkien didn't do anything wrong. People shouldn't have to live in pain. People shouldn't have to live in pain and suffer. Um, Legalize euthanasia in low quality of life situations. Okay. So, um, we're moving on from teenage years into adulthood. There's some minor alcohol substance abuse. There really wasn't any substance abuse up until this point. Maybe there was some experimentation with different things, with Xanax and opiates and benzodiazepines and synthetic opiates. Um, like a little. I remember I took I think it was a benzodiazepine. Uh, my friend gave me. Uh, we were hanging out and talking, and I asked for a normal, simple starter recreational dose. Um, and then I passed out for like 48 hours. Uh, Almost immediately, I started getting really dizzy. He drove me to his house, which was way closer than anything else, and offered to let me sleep on his couch. This was when I was about 19, 20 maybe. Um, and other than that, um, nothing really ever affected me in an abnormal way that I didn't report up till then. And then I'm entering college, and then so here's the big difference. Oh, and I'm obese. I have obesity. I'm about 200 pounds. From what my medical records say, I fluctuated between about 195 and 210 pounds. I'm 5'8" and a half feet tall. Um, what was I gonna say? Oh, and I have a 38-inch waist. So, and that's an interesting point too, because today, one of my biggest things, the biggest, most concrete thing I can point to show that I actually have a physical illness that you can physically see, um, is that I had a 38-inch waist when I was like 16, 17, 18, 19, at 200 pounds. But today, I have a 32-inch waist, and I weigh 230. Last time they weighed me, I started at 250 a few months back. Then it was 240. Now it's 230. Um, and I don't remember when the weight gain started. Maybe a couple years ago. Uh, but I feel like it really came on suddenly. So then I turned 21, 22. I'm drinking kind of heavily, um, especially the year I turned 21. I feel like I drank a lot, like enough to not be on the liver transplant list anywhere that matters. Um, but it was really just that one year. Uh, that's us. Right? I apologize for that. Like I said, there's no script for this. I'm really trying to stay focused, but that's one of my biggest issues now. I have a hard time with that. I lost a bunch of weight. I changed everything. Nothing I did worked, and I largely wondered if it was just like the way my mother lived. She wasn't great, really. She tried. My girlfriends are really upset when they hear me talk about that. But it's probably her fault that I was obese. Just the food and the times and the lack of consistency of there being a meal at all. And her telling me I wasn't allowed to cook meals for the family because she assumed I was dumb or something, I guess. She still assumes I'm dumb, so that's why I think that's probably the reason. So either way, um, I turned everything around. I started cooking for myself. I tripled, double, tripled, quadrupled down on nutrition, whole foods, no fast foods. Find out what the issues are. Research was just coming out around that time about sugar, so I tried the low sugar. I did a lot of working out, 50 push-ups and sit-ups in the morning and at night every day. Nothing too rigorous, but you know. Oh, and I would swim. I'd swim until I just couldn't do anymore, about 3 times a day. Um, swim laps, just for, I did stuff I liked. Quick things, nothing like too brutal. I found I hated going to the gym. Still hated. I like sports though. I was always really athletic. I was actually very athletic, and I like to sing, so I did a lot of singing, which is very lung intensive, very strenuous. Um, I realized later on that what I probably ought to have done is found like an adult casual basketball league and played that, or soccer, or football, pigskin ball. Um, but I didn't think about that at the time. That'd be just great exercise. Um, but I mean, I was eating right, and then I went down, and I kept it down for about until I was 31, almost 10 years, really. I weighed 165 pounds with less than 15% body fat, and I just, I felt good. I liked looking at myself in the mirror for the first time. Really, that was cool. Um, but nothing really changed substantially about it. Um, and as we're overlapping now with the illness, with the time I was healthy physically, so I'm losing motivation to keep all this stuff up. Not to mention space. There wasn't like space to like do these push-ups, which take space. I didn't have the pool towards the latest part, so I wasn't really able to keep all this stuff up. Plus, part of how I supported myself was I was cooking for other people. I would cook dinners and lunches and sometimes breakfasts and stuff. Um, and it just made sense to eat what they ate, but they didn't want any of my food. They wanted like spaghetti. I don't know. Wanted pizza. Wanted tacos, beef tacos with extra cheese. Um, I guess they didn't want any of my stuff. I became a really good cook though. I like my food. People like my food when I make it for them. But oh well. And it's all healthy. It's cheap usually. Of course, I'll cook up a lobster or a lamb or some shrimps if you give them to me. Cook the shit out of some shrimps, whether you give them to me or not. But most of the food is pretty cheap. Using whole foods. Uh, Either way. So then we're getting into what would be 8 years ago, 2015. Yeah. So what I think happened is I think there's black mold or something similar in the bathroom in this house. I think I got a serious infection when I was little, um, and mostly the symptoms after 10 years went away. But then when I got healthy again, the virus or whatever it is stored in the fat cells went away. Those fat cells dissolved, and the virus in them started to leak out. Um, by the way, I started smoking in college, so that was about 20 years old. So it may have been 15 years, about a pack a day smoker, up until I quit risperidone, which is coming up, and that was really just for about 6 months. The big issue people have is that I rolled my own cigarettes because it was cheaper for quite a while. Oh, this might be against YouTube's policy. Maybe it's not. I'm gonna forget about that one too. I always have water nearby for as long as I can remember now. It's had to have been at least a decade. Always water. Maybe not quite a decade. It probably started about then. Always water nearby. Can't get enough of it. Drink about 2 gallons a day. sometimes more, almost never less, unless like water is scarce for some reason, and I feel parched. Um, oh, I was gonna read this. Okay. This was the differential diagnosis I made about 8 years ago. So now we're getting into then. Let's see what I said about my medical history then, because after years of going through this schizophrenia, I still wasn't feeling any better. And keep in mind, this is now like multiple years of complaining about pneumonia symptoms. Um, in case you were wondering, they told me I'm a smoker, and that's to be expected. I wonder if can you see this maybe? If I do it really slowly. It's not really high enough definition. Maybe you can digitally enhance it. This is page 1. Beautiful handwriting. I'll read this too, but I don't feel like typing it up. I really don't feel like doing any of this, but I think I'm mute now. I don't think I want to talk to any more doctors. I've canceled all my doctor's appointments. As far as I'm concerned, next time they see me can be in a body bag, which is apparently, I don't know what I expect to happen. But in case anybody out there wants to study a Wilson's patient that's going undiagnosed, my depression started to go away. It was really after the meditation. I took a long time to think to myself about like who I am, what I like, what I am talented at, and how all those overlap. And I found I was really good at psychology. And if I'd been really, really clever, I've thought lately, I wouldn't have dropped out of college because I wasn't a very good chemist. I went to school for chemistry at Eastern Michigan. Go Emus. I got a really great education, but I wasn't a great chemist. And they were even, my doctoral mentor was even pushing me into biochemistry. If I'd been really clever, I would have done it. And then I would have gone for PhD work in psychology. Because I realized at that time I was probably already, and still probably am, the world's leading expert on MBTI, Myers-Briggs Typology Indicator. But oh well. But this is working. After a couple of years, the depression really went away. I realized I really liked myself. I really like this person that I am. I'm not unhappy with me. I'm unhappy with the way other people treat me. And I have no idea why they do that. I think I'm unlucky, frankly. If I have to be completely honest, what I consistently see is unlucky. But that's not a very good explanation for you, so I don't really know. Maybe you can tell me why I draw on the wrong people and push away the right people. And nobody's ever given me a chance on anything. Not enough, at least. I have some nice things to say about quite a few people. Always seem to left my life quickly, though, for one reason or another. I had a priest at St. John's here, Terrence Kerner, and man, he got pulled up to Dearborn to help with this Detroit Catholic church that was really struggling because he was such a great priest. He was too good of a priest for our, you know, 1,000 person church. They really needed somebody to really make a difference in Detroit. The next time I saw him was when I was in college. I went to visit his sermon. He looked old, and then a few years later, I found out he was doing. He performed the funeral for that famous Michigan politician. I don't remember. He was like, I don't know, already out of politics when I started paying attention. But either way, I was gonna read this to you. Chief complaint. That's what they like to hear. Chief complaint. Pneumonia symptoms. I don't know exactly what this was, so I think it was 8 years ago. So just say like somewhere in the summer or fall or spring of 2015. I complained of pneumonia symptoms. Lethargy, severity 9 out of 10. I guess I mean like just debilitating. How debilitating it is. 9 out of 10. Dates observed 3+ years ago. 2 weeks of antibiotics made me feel better briefly, and then it came back. I have a mucousy cough, severity 3 out of 10, observed 2+ years ago. Shortness of breath, severity 3 out of 10, 3+ years ago. Low lung capacity, 3 out of 10, severity observed 3+ years ago. Next is difficulty processing information, completing tasks. Man, this has gotten really bad too. This just kept deteriorating over time. Difficulty processing information and completing tasks. Procrastination, 9 out of 10, observed about 5+ years ago. Difficulty processing complex information. Man, it went back farther than that, I think. Difficulty processing complex information, severity 5 out of 10, observed 3+ years ago. Recalling information, observed severity 3 out of 10, observed 2+ years ago. Difficulty reading and focusing, severity 3 out of 10, unknown when it started. When it says to difficulty recalling information, I have a note that says anterograde amnesia. That probably means something, but I've forgotten. Psychological symptoms. Depression, lack of desire to live, severity 8 out of 10, observed 21 years ago. I'm guessing I was a young child. I have a note that says, begun the summer I was 9 years old, episodes, well that dates it, so then I was 30, it might have been 30 when this all started, when I wrote this, then I've got a little indicator here. So that would have been about 4 years ago when I filled this out. It doesn't sound right, but I guess it could be. Which means I was taking risperidone for a shorter time than I thought. It begun the summer I was 9 years old. Episodes during cyclical contact with physical contact with males. Psychotic episodes during perceived contact or potential. Maybe a problem if romantically involved. Yep, you can say that. PTSD is my next symptom. Severity 5 out of 10. About 5 years ago. I wrote arachnoparanoia, and that's actually become pretty debilitating. I wound up in the hospital once for that. We had no idea what it was, but I finally got a doctor to really think about it, and we figured out that it was a combination of a psychotic episode and a panic attack with a psychiatric trigger of a spider. Seeing a spider or thinking too much about them, or even imagining that there's a spider nearby, will launch me into a really weird thing. That was actually why I kept taking the hydroxyzine, although it's useful for other things lately. But for years, I only ever took it for the arachnoparanoia. combination of a panic attack and psychotic episode all in one. It really bad lately. I'm surprised I wrote 2 out of 10 back then. Disassociation, lies. Um, I have disassociation / lies. Severity 1 out of 10, observed 5 years ago. I don't know what that means. Unsocial, irritable. Severity 1 out of 10, observed 21 years ago. Yeah, that's not true either. I was really social for most of my childhood, most of my pediatric years. Suicidal attempts. Keep in mind, I've recently lost my mind. If my math is correct, which I think it is, I filled this out only like 3 or 4 years after I was initially diagnosable with schizophrenia, and I'm still struggling to communicate. This is like my first attempt at really communicating with the outside world. I don't remember a whole lot about in those years except for being in trouble a lot with everybody, including the law. That was when I got my DUI, and not being able to communicate, and yelling a lot, being told I'm screaming when I think I'm speaking. Really detached from like objective reality in ways that I think were true, in ways I don't really think anything else. I think generally I see reality pretty well, but I'm not really quite so sure about those years. So this was me coming out of that after 4 years of hard work and I thought the risperidone, which begs the question of what risperidone even did, because I was really willing to give it the benefit of the doubt and say help me with this part. But if I was already at that stage before risperidone, it might not have done anything, because I think it cured my insomnia, but that's not a listed thing that it can do. It's not like a thing they allege the drug might actually fix. But so this is in contradiction to like what I remember, but I wish I dated it. Oh well. Just keep reading. This could be a long video, but I don't know what I can't keep like dealing with issues like one at a time. I think. Oh no, I've got a whole other page of issues. I'm socially irritable. Bunch of suicide attempts. Sure. Oh, I wrote here. I love myself. Oh, I do though. That's like something psychotherapists hate, and I don't know why. They're like, you're depressed. You just have to like find something you're good at and like enjoy it, and like yeah, duh. I know your field of study too. I'm good at stuff. I was always really good at strategy games. I became really good at psychology, pediatric psychology in particular. Um, um, Other stuff probably at that time. And I just kept educating myself. I got so good at so many things because I apparently had nothing better to do. Really, cooking. I was probably already at least taking pride in my cuisine, even if I wasn't like really a noteworthy chef at that point. Either way, I love myself. So like let's like focus on that from a psychiatric point of view. That's not a small issue. You probably never had a patient tell you that before. Um, I was not thinking clearly during any of the incidents above. Well, that wouldn't be true a few years later, boy. More symptoms. Back spasm. Oh yeah, that was why that's like where this all started. June 24th of 2019. No, yeah, I guess that was later. Man, if I filled this out in 2019, so there's the date. I probably filled this out recently after my back spasm, which would have been, man, just over 4 years ago. So, well, I already know I can't trust my memory though, so I'll just keep reading. Irritated skin. That's why documentation. I wish doctors would actually look at this. Irritated skin, 1 out of 10, observed about 3 years ago. The red skin I pointed out already. Only I figured out what that is. It's sun sensitivity over time, but I must not have known at the time. Boils. I have boils. About 1 or 2 at all times. I did actually go to a dermatologist on that. I got diagnosed with hydrogenitis, dermatological hydrogenitis, and they confirmed it with a biopsy. Which sucks. High sex drive, sure. Dizziness after Hep A vaccine. Oh yeah, I get dizziness when I have vaccines. Other symptoms here you go. Insomnia, 3 out of 10. Severity, observed 15 years ago up until just 2 years ago. So that tells me when I started risperidone. New mattress and sheets may have helped. Maybe. Doubt it. So I might have already been on risperidone when I wrote this. Arthritis, 3 out of 10. Man, then that's... Yeah, I mean, maybe. You can't write for more than like 45 minutes. Or type. I have to take breaks. Pain and slowness after brief periods of writing. Yeah. I didn't realize that I even had that symptom until I took the ACT. And I realized everybody else could just write and write and write. And I was the only one who had to take breaks. Migraines. I get migraines. I don't get headaches. I get migraines. Severity, 8 out of 10. But it's very, and I wrote very occasional. Medicine helps. The Excedrin migraine. Darkness, sitting down, creating silent atmosphere in it. But it is bad. Sunlight-inducing headaches. Yeah, I forgot about that. When I'm outside of sunlight for a while and I go into sunlight, I get these bad, very brief but very bad headaches, and they quickly go away. I just have to kind of sit down for 5 minutes. Severity, 2 out of 10. Observed 15 plus years ago. Pain around the right lung, so I like where my heart would be on the right side. Severity, 8 out of 10. Yeah, I'm done. I'm down during that. But it'll go away very occasionally. Observed about 1 year ago. Weight loss, 0 out of 10. Observed about 6 years ago. So this was 2019, so that'd be 2013. Yeah, it sounds about right. But what the reason it's a symptom is I eat a 3,000 calorie a day diet. Still apparently at that point. Lots of food, lots of water. Tinnitus, 1 out of 10. I just ignore that. Very occasional. Observed about 7 years ago. Sleeping appendage. My appendage is asleep. I don't know what that is. Date observed unknown. Severity, 2 out of 10. Belching. Oh yeah, I was belching tons at that time. So that went away. Sort of. Severity, 2 out of 10. That's it's not so much embarrassing as it is people get really angry at me. It's like I'm being rude. So that's really inconvenient. Exercise-induced asthma, severity 2 out of 10. Probably deserves a 1 out of 10. Observed 15 plus years ago. Weak eye muscle, 1 out of 10. Infancy. Dr. Sullivan diagnosed ocular myasthenia gravis. Question mark. I must have tried to figure out what exactly it was or looked at my medical history. I It says right here, proof nobody actually read this. I want to surgically repair this. Please talk to me about this, please. He told me a surgery could fix it. But they wouldn't do the surgery until I was 18 because they'd have to do it again at 18 anyway. And it could cause complications. But if I was really serious, he could, if I remembered, I could do a surgery when I was above the age of 18. Other considerations, differential diagnosis, possibly pneumonia, Crohn's disease, or other autoimmune disease. I've since ruled those out. I really don't think an autoimmune disease makes sense because of feeling better on the antibiotics. High IQ, hypothyroidism doesn't make sense. Love excess. I asked a medical assistant about that once. She said the boils would have to move because they'd be attached to a lung abscess. There was something about like it might be Derkham's because I have Derkham's with a cross through it, and I know this is ruled out. But the boils would have to move. So it depends on if they're attached to the skin or if they're attached to the muscle underneath the skin. So we decided since they don't move, they're attached to the skin, not the muscles. And I wrote here, I can't read it, CUREN, hypothesis. Don't know what that means. And psychosomatic, and I have pneumonia written down here. Pneumonia, I mean, they tested me for that twice, including just at the hospital. That was the only test they did when I went to the ER just now. Got released after a couple of hours. Only test they did was to look for pneumonia. Couldn't find it. Didn't expect them to. I've had an X-ray for that before. There was frontal lobe could be a consideration. Parkinsonians. STDs turned out to, which I tested for. I'm all clear. I could probably test again just to be even more sure. But HIV and syphilis and herpes and hepatitis all have strains that could create physical and psychiatric symptoms. The list of things that could look like schizophrenia and have physical symptoms associated with is a really small list. So that should have helped the diagnosis somewhere. Really small list of things. I think I'm forgetting one, but such a short list. Wilson's disease fits. I can probably include it here or somewhere. I have a picture of my eye. I took a video of my eye and just rolled around because I wasn't quite sure. Because one of the leading diagnostic factors is if you have a copper-colored ring in your eye. And after sifting frame by frame through the video, it was harder than I expected, but I did actually see a copper-colored ring near my pupil, my iris. It was there. Talked to an ophthalmologist. Ophthalmologist says that's not the diagnostic factor. You have to look for copper behind the eye. This was Rooney. He's the #1 rated ophthalmologist in the Toledo area, the Lucas County area. But I asked him. He said he didn't seem familiar with the disease really in practice. He said he'd only ever done the test one time. He said he looked for it, but he did at least correct a nurse who said conclusively not Wilson's disease. He said, it's actually not a conclusive test. All we can do is say conclusively there's no copper in the eye. That's in my medical history. So, I mean, like, I'm starting to go mad, man. I'm telling people I'm sick, I'm dying, and they're telling me you're schizophrenic and a smoker. I just can't do this anymore. I have a third page here. I'll just read this. My summary is I'm a healthy 30-year-old with undiagnosed, debilitating complex illness, self-diagnosis, severe depression, suicidal chronic depression, treatment-resistant leading to unwillingness to survive, leading to inability of the body to fight, heal minor illnesses. Oh yeah, minor colds and flus. I'm not really fighting off colds and flus. Those could be adding up. PTSD, and or schizoid personality disorder, complication resulting from severe child abuse. Dr. Perez Carrera diagnosis, 6/24/19, back spasm resulting from untreated psychiatric illness. Um, Willing to try high-risk experimental treatments. I mean, I'm suicidal, you know? If there's something, I remember telling a psychiatrist about this once when I was little. Like, if there's an option that, there's a 50% chance of death and a 50% chance of getting better, let's talk about it. Let's put it on the table. Doctors in the Hippocratic Oath, man, that led me to feeling a lot of pain in my life. Currently, a diagnosis of schizoid personality disorder with psychosomatic complications. SPD. My current diagnosis: schizoid personality disorder, schizophrenia with a that's my diagnosis. Schizophrenia with a psychosomatic illness. I thought SPD was schizoid personality disorder. Maybe it's schizophrenia. I'm not quite sure. That can be easily looked up. Either way, that diagnosis was obtained at 7/21/19. That was offered by Dr. Perez Carrera, and then that was in urgent care, and then confirmed by my primary care in psychiatry. Medication allergies. This was an interesting one. Drugs don't work in me the right way. Went to see an allergist. They say I have an allergy to dust mites. I have a strong reaction. Whatever. I probably shouldn't say that. Could be hugely relevant. Minorly to pet hair, minorly to mosquitoes. But I don't know. I just don't. I don't feel like it's an allergic reaction. Guess maybe it could be. Medication, hydroxypam, 2015, reaction calming. Steroids, 6/24/19 and 2019, very effective, basically miraculous. Seroquel, spelled wrong, 2015, over responsive. 3 hours of sleep after only a few minutes of taking to begin reacting, and perfectly awake after 3 hours. Hydrocodone, 2012-2013, very effective as an antidepressant. Dependency acquired and quit. Lithium, 2007, really highly severe psychotic episode with hallucinations, visual and auditory. Been claiming that as an allergy ever since. Marijuana, total dissociation but clarity of thought. Yeah, I smoked for about a year. That wasn't a great year overall. That was, I don't remember, not this last year, but the year before. I don't do that anymore, but I don't know. Ethyl alcohol. I was taking 2 drinks per week when I wrote this. It's effective as an anxiety relief. That became complicated. Tobacco, 20 cigarettes a day. Focus and calming, but addiction and dental problems. DXM, effective hallucinogenic. Sugar intolerance acquired. Yeah, that was interesting. Pointless. Fun, pointless. Drugs I believe that I have taken with no response whatsoever. Acid, DMT, mushrooms, vilazodone, citalopram, lorazepam, olanzapine, Wellbutrin, Traxidone. I missed this Wellbutrin on here. They gave me that again recently. That was the most recent drug I was on. They told me it was going to be a kid's drug. They had me look up something. Yeah, it's for kids, small dose. And then one day I started to feel really bad. This wasn't about whatever the month is before August. And And then I like not thinking clearly enough, paying much attention. So I looked at my drug again, and it wasn't the drug that I looked up. It was Wellbutrin, which is actually a pretty serious drug. Um, well, that was basically the last straw with my psychiatrist. Don't love that, man. Psychiatrists they're creeps. You know, have you read about one thing and then take another, ask them about symptoms of a drug, and they just tell you no, I'm not going to tell you. Why don't you just take it and then you tell me what your side effects are? Um, so that's that medical history. That's pretty comprehensive up until apparently 4 years ago. I thought it was longer ago than that. I remember I wrote it. I was determined. We're going to figure this out. We're going to get this done. I became immune to the risperidone, and now I'm not sure about the timeline. Maybe I was already on risperidone when I did this, but I thought I took risperidone for about 5 years. Um, Maybe I must have learned how to communicate before then, because I really remember going to the psychology center in Novi and giving them this my first time I was there, and the medical assistant looked over especially past drugs and was like, "Well, let's try you on something new. Looks like you've tried everything. Let's try risperidone. Have you tried that? No, I've never even heard of it. Yeah, let's try that. Okay, whatever. Sounds good. I guess I feel better. Maybe insomnia went away. That's great. Might just feel better because I'm sleeping now. That's certainly something. But man, I stopped taking that 2.5 years ago. My history would probably report it better. It could have been January of 2022, maybe at the absolute latest. Um, and haven't been on anything really since. And then and then you can make the argument that then 6 months went by, and then I'm starting to feel worse again. Maybe it was their spiridone that made me feel better. Nothing new, really. That was comprehensive. I don't really have any new issues per se than was on that list. Um, I guess I have like weakness overall. Um, Sometimes I need a wheelchair now. Um, Starting in October of last year, I remember because this was my brother's wedding in October. Was the first time anybody had ever seen me with a walking stick, and I explained that about one day a week I have trouble walking, and then another day a week another day a week another day a week um, one day a week I have trouble walking, another day a week I need a walking stick or a wheelchair to walk, to move. um, that was a year ago. That was when it became like, okay, like I'm dying, something's happening, this is getting worse, not better. um, well, I talked about my CT scan a year ago. Well, let's talk about this latest adventure, because this was quite an adventure. So I finally, I already decided, I'm done. Whatever. I guess they're just not going to figure it out. I'm just not going to get better. I should mention this. When you talk to people about schizophrenia, when you look at actual experts, what you find is nobody really knows this disease. It's a strange disease, schizophrenia. It's not. I have hallucinations now, which I didn't when I had filled that out up until very recently. That's one of the changes. Um, Hallucinations are not. identifiable. They're not diagnosable for schizophrenia. Um, Psychotic episodes are a big part of schizophrenia, but it's defined by one's inability to comprehend the abstract, is what I hear experts saying. Um, and I came up with this uh, to prove I'm not schizophrenic to myself, if nobody else, that I can literally move figurative mountains, which is hard even for neurotypical people to figure out. But it's so abstract and poetic. Man, I love poetry. I just if being concrete minded exclusively is required to be schizophrenic, then I don't have that disease. Um, which then begs the question of like, what else is there? And how can I be psychosomatic? I mean, every organ of my body other than my heart is bad. Everything. Man, I don't know. Like I said, I'm going mad about this. I just keep being told that I'm wrong, that I'm a crazy person. Well, maybe I'm a crazy person. Maybe I don't know what's real. Maybe I'm in a coma somewhere, and this is all a dream. One of my favorite quotes, Lao Tzu, I think it's attributed to a Chinese philosopher, says, am I a man dreaming that I'm a butterfly, or a butterfly dreaming that I'm a man? So I finally decide I'm starving to death. I'm hungry all the time. I'm not hungry right now either. I don't know what happened with that. My waist is crazy. My weight's going insane. I don't know. Do I have a bunch of water weight or something? My diagnosis. Do I have food? Is it an allergy? Do I just have colds and flus I'm not fighting off? Do I have an infection? But is it antibiotic resistant at this point? Either way, I'm complaining about medical symptoms, and I realize I'm hesitating to complain about anything. My dad had a stroke, and like he's saying he can't drive, and I'm like I can't drive either. But I don't know how to complain about that if I'm not going to the doctors. So I decided I'm going to take my passport I've never used and go up to Canada. And they go over to their medical system, use a completely different medical system. While getting through, I run into all sorts of issues. I get detained in Canadian customs crossing the border. They searched every. I don't know what they thought. I don't get it. I think they might have thought I was drug smuggling. I had a bunch of stuff in my car, and I think they found that very suspicious. So I'm in the customs office and I'm talking to this guy. This one of the I only really have something nice to say about 3 of the people I interacted with. There was quite a few of them. This one black Canadian gentleman heard my story, was just kind of laughing like, "Nah, man, it'll just take a few moments. They're gonna look into your background history and I work with kids. I've taken an FBI background check a few years ago. Haven't had any issues with law since. I told them my DUI is it's not gonna be an issue. No, there's no reason you should be detained. But there was a couple of people who really didn't want me in their country or in Canada. I don't know. He heard I talked to him about what I'm doing there, the healthcare center, and he explains that those doctors are the same doctors in Henry Ford Hospital in Detroit, and that we had a nice long conversation comparing and contrasting the Canadian healthcare system with the U.S. healthcare system, and he basically convinced me that even if I do get through, I probably just want to turn right back around anyway and go over to Henry Ford. But man, it was quite a while. I don't know. I guess it wasn't that long. Maybe a couple hours until I was on the road again. But they weren't rude. They were. Everything moved along quickly. I even heard some guy shout at one point, "Patrick Baudet, all clear." Like my background check came back. They searched my whole car. I don't think anything got destroyed or damaged. When I finally got my car back and I looked at it, everything looked fine. Um, but they kicked me out of Canada. So what I actually did, and the guy, this was the black guy again I was talking to. He gets this forum, and he seemed really apologetic with an air of like, I have no idea what is going on right now. I don't get this. But he asked me to sign this form that said, I hereby withdraw my application to enter the nation of Canada. Okay, I guess. Well, so I'm panicking now. And I'm about to be thrown back onto the streets of Detroit without any real idea of what to do. Um, so I go back through American customs now, and I get detained again and searched again for quote looking uncomfortable. And they didn't want me to the United States. They acted like they would have kicked me out too. Um, if if they could, if I wasn't a U.S. citizen. The girl I spoke to, she was very stern, a Hispanic lady. One of the people I don't really have any complaints about. She was very, very stern to the point of being like a little bit rude. Very professional though, and she had my arm held at a weird angle. I assumed she was taught to do, and it would have been it could have been easily very uncomfortable. But she held me very gently, although firmly. And then she was steering me around, walking me into the detainment center, walking me like waving me around back and forth, up and down this unlevel ground. I assumed it was some sort of sobriety test because then I sat down and didn't really talk to anyone or do anything while they searched my car, and eventually just let me go. That was all. That was basically my whole thing. There was a Canadian guy who acted like this was totally absurd. He was making jokes. That was funny. This kid who looked like he should probably not be working for Canadian Customs. But wow, this video's over an hour. Oh well, can't help it. So then I was really uncomfortable. Really, I was almost panicking. I just get to the expressway in Detroit, 75, and I'm going south, back towards Toledo, and I'm just looking for an exit. And there's construction. Of course, there's a bunch of construction, and it's 4 p.m. at that point, so there's a bunch of traffic. I'm just trying not to get into any accidents and get off the expressway somewhere where I can find a gas station or a fast food restaurant or like somewhere I can park and just breathe. Because like customs immigrations tells you you're allowed to go. You don't ask questions, you just go. So I finally did that. It was about 10 miles. I found out I was in Lincoln Park, a suburb of Detroit. Stopped at a gas station, just breathed for a while, smoked a couple cigarettes, just reassessed, and I decided I wasn't going to go to the hospital at Henry Ford, even though that made the most sense. I was going to stop at an urgent care first. And I found urgent care in Lincoln Park. I was getting directions to a hospital, and I decided I would go to the urgent care first. And talked to a guy there. Can't remember his name. Might have been Maddie. And well, either way, I told him my story. I'm feeling abdominal pain, stomach pain. I feel indigestion in my stomach. It's like heartburn, but it's in my stomach. Like something's boiling back up into my stomach and making me feel bad. I had a lot of nausea, really bad nausea, especially around like gross subjects. A lot of vomiting, a lot of weird things with my some, I don't remember what I was gonna say, but then diarrhea, a lot of weird issues just with the whole GI. He says, you should probably go to the hospital. We can't do a whole lot here. What you really need is a psychiatrist to figure out what's wrong with you and treat some of these symptoms. some of these psychiatric symptoms. It didn't seem very familiar with schizophrenia, so maybe it's not schizophrenia. But then you have these now I have these hallucinations since about a year ago in the shadows in my peripheral vision. If I see something that doesn't really clearly take form, my brain will, like a Rorschach test, like an ink blot, will create an image of what it is, um, and then I'll like have some sort of like mild paranoia effect for just a second until I look over and see what it is. He's like, well, Matt, I know you're having these hallucinations. We need to treat that. And what you really need is a primary care physician to get you over to a GI doctor, gastroenterologist, and they need to put a scope through your intestines and whatnot. And you're probably looking at like a problem with gut bacteria. He said, and I found this funny in the days that followed, is he said it's probably it sounds like you're being poisoned by something you're eating, is what it sounds like. So, well, yeah, that's interestingly my exact diagnosis. So, being Wilson's disease. So, I was tired leaving there. He's like, go, you gotta make all these appointments. I canceled all my appointments instead when I left there. I went home. I was just too tired. I got something to eat, took a nap, woke up about 2 a.m., 3 a.m., something like that, and I decided I'm going to go over to Toledo Hospital. I set out, I told him I was going to make appointments with doctors. I was going to probably go to the hospital. I was going to like keep trying this. I wasn't just going to give up. So I decided I'd give it one more shot. I'd go over to Toledo Hospital. I was in there a few hours, maybe. Starving to death. They ran an X-ray of my chest. I wrote a whole little letter, and I don't remember. I remember it said that I was I was thinking a serious lung infection and Wilson's disease, and my primary concern is I'm thinking chronic kidney disease. And I remember the first line of it said, "What I can absolutely tell you for sure is that your hospital is not prepared for my case. And what I need is a nurse to sit down and listen to all of my symptoms one by one and then tell a doctor. Write them down with pen and paper and give that to a doctor. Not with their little medical history forms and charts and whatnot. Old school. Write down the symptoms one by one. Organize them however you think is appropriate. There's just too much going on here. And I just cannot repeat this multiple times. I just can't. So this is it, I think, honestly. If a doctor's not going to look at this, or a nurse, then whatever. Discharge me. I don't care. I don't really have faith that you're going to fix me anyway. So let's go through, I guess, body part by body part. My feet. Lately, the last day or two, my right leg has started to become weak. Sometimes it gives out, but my left leg is the really bad one. There's two different issues. Sometimes I have these really bad pains on the bottom of my feet. I think they might be like bumps, hydrogenitis, something dermatological that's just stuck there, maybe cured, calloused over or something, and it can create really bad pains as I walk. But the real issue is sometimes my leg just gives out. The muscles just loosen, relax, and then I just fall over, unless I catch myself somehow, usually with a walking stick. Trying to think if there's any issues with my legs otherwise. Can't think of anything. My groin is fine. I've got bumps. Obviously, I got like pimples and hydrogenitis and boils. I think they're all different, and they go all over my body. So that's, I guess, something I can mention. I think right now I have one on my butt. Well, it's medicine. I hate talking about this kind of stuff. Um, I should use my bloody hoodie for this video. Might have made Dr. throw up though. I don't think that's. I think that's all below the waist. Um, well, I haven't had any issues with back spasms. Yeah. When I'm really relaxed for my legs, when I'm really relaxed at night, one of my legs will shake really violently. Like, I don't even know what to compare it to. Really, it just shakes and shakes and shakes. In fact, one of my legs is doing it now. I'm not sure which one. Um, it's usually my left leg, but it doesn't have to be. If my left leg is under like a blanket or something, or like my cat preventing it from moving, or like forced down, my other leg will shake instead. So that's like the last Wilson symptom. I think that's it. Then my stomach, man, pain, just general pain. Then a sharp pain. It's like here. It's like right here, and it's very occasional, but it's really sharp and really bad. And it's the kind of thing that like the pain, the memory of the pain lingers for quite a while. Like I don't like, and then I get the same thing here, and I have no idea what connection those two body parts have, but it's the kind of thing like I don't really know that I've ever felt any pain like that before. See my stomach. I get this indigestion pain and starvation pain, all of these independently. This indigestion, I don't know what that is. It feels like heartburn. It feels like you ate too many onions, and then I had a milkshake, and then a pizza, and then like a fifth of vodka, and like how that makes your heart burn. It feels like that in my stomach though, and it just feels like that normally. Um, Diarrhea. I've had diarrhea for over a year now straight. I don't really remember when it started. Um, my diet changed about, I don't know, a year ago probably. I tried keto for 6 months. This would have been in like 2020-ish, somewhere. That didn't really stick. It wasn't really sustainable. Um, Maybe I'm just trying to think of things that are medically potentially relevant. Um, but a year ago, I started eating a lot of candy. Not really because not for any particular reason as far as a craving goes. Just because like I hadn't eaten candy or drank soda pop in over 10 years, and I decided about a year ago, I guess I'm dying. I might as well like try a bunch of the stuff that I haven't tried in a long time and see if I like any of it. And I found I like some candies and soda pop, like a shot of soda pop once in a while. So I guess that's something. But man, these issues started before then. It was because of the issues. Um, I tell people I'm trying to think. I what I told a doctor recently. I drink because I have problems. I don't have problems because I drink. That was It was quite witty of me, if I may say so myself. All right, moving on. Chest, yeah, shortness of breath, all those same pneumonia symptoms. If anything, they've gotten worse. I think maybe like I'm not sure. I'm fighting off colds and flus. I think they've actually gotten a little bit worse. And the pneumonia, the lethargy in particular, really got bad about 18 months ago. That was really like the big thing that took a turn for the worse. About 18 months ago, plus the hallucinations. Also, a couple times I like when my world flipped over, I was like seeing things upside down, although like conscious enough to be aware that like I wasn't actually like falling upward into my car, which was not falling upward. that like nothing changed, gravity didn't switch. My brain was just not processing information correctly, and I just needed to get to a place where I could stop and like sleep it off, which is what I did. Um, heart's great. They keep telling which side is my heart on this side. They keep telling me my heart's great, probably because I was really healthy. They say the heart is an indication of overall health. Um, they tell me my vitals are beautiful. I'm telling them I'm dying. Um, everything else is Everything else is eh. My heart's magnificent. Um, covered most of these symptoms. Really, only the insomnia went away. I sleep weird hours now, but I at least sleep. I sleep well. I sleep a lot. I sleep well, though. I'm trying to think. I have weight gain. I mentioned that already. Um, arthritis. I mentioned that already. Um, sunlight, sun sensitivity. Um, brain fog. I think mostly they're neurological lately now. The brain fog has gotten a lot worse. The difficulty concentrating. I'm reading a couple of books now again, but it's been a long time. I went I went about a whole year since last May of not being able to read, not being able to do anything really. Um, difficulty working 40 hours a week. That's not new, but probably medically relevant. Um, brain fog, difficulty concentrating, memory, lots of memory issues. Um, remember about half a day I couldn't remember who was president. I know that's always a huge concern to people. Uh, I think that's all that's new. I think that's my medical history. Thank you for watching. I've had a few minutes to mull this video over that I made. Just a couple of things. Some recent changes in symptoms. I've been getting microspasms in my left hand. Um, it shakes. Like it's common. It happens every day, but probably not many times every day. Sometimes maybe only once a day. Sometimes 2 or 3 times. It's happening in my arm now too, where if I'm holding something, my arm just might tense up suddenly or relax. I don't know what that is necessarily, but I'm calling it a microspasm. I have changes in diet over the last 3 years or so. Really heavy changes. When I put that out, eating 3,000 calories a day, that was true up until a while after I would have written that, up until 2020 or so. Then all of a sudden my diet changed dramatically. I wasn't able to eat. I didn't eat nearly as much. I started drinking quite a bit more, but I would eat probably as little as like 750 calories on a normal day. I would sometimes make a whole plate of food and then take one bite and then feel full. And then that changed again about a year ago, where I went back to a more or less normal diet. for me for about, I don't know, 2,000 to 3,000 calories a day. And that might have been when I started getting all this weight. I didn't feel great at any point during that. I had a lot of nausea during all this time. A lot of putting back what I ate. Sometimes falling down on the ground and throwing up. That was bad. Particularly, and I just remembered another symptom. I have this thing, vertigo. I was afraid of heights when I was younger, and then I kind of got over that going to Cedar Point, the roller coaster theme park. But then these last couple of years, if I see it in a video, like I enjoy watching videos online of point of view roller coasters, watching people in the front row with their GoPros on roller coasters. But now even just watching that, seeing heights on video, being high up, looking down, I get really nauseated, really sick to my stomach, to the point of being dizzy, or maybe I'm dizzy and then I feel nauseated. So that's weird. And then back to the GI problems, and I'm not sure. I can't remember how much I've been eating lately. It feels like I've been eating quite a bit less. Don't really have much desire for anything. I remember I was for several weeks I was craving really weird foods every few days, and I guess that really hasn't gone away. I ate like a whole box of macaroni and cheese once, just macaroni and cheese out of the prepared but out of the box, a whole pan of it. I've been craving cheese sticks, a lot of fatty foods, fried chicken, and then for a while just ramen noodles with garlic, with fresh garlic cut up and thrown in. And then I would just breathe in the garlic and the broth steam for a while, and that was really nice. And I still do that a little bit here and there, but I was doing it every single meal for several weeks. I've got the next one is, I don't know if I'm hungry. That was I kind of talked about that a little bit, but that's like still an issue. I can sometimes, like, I can't tell because I'm hungry. Like I have this like starvation thing. I like always kind of feel hungry. Sometimes I like don't think I'm really hungry, and then like an hour will go by, and then I'm like, I realize, oh, I've been hungry this whole time, like really hungry. It's too hungry to even get up and cook food. I've been keeping some protein bars next to in my bedroom now for that. And then the next one is I don't know if I need to use the restroom. I drink a lot of water, but lately, but it was still pretty normal. I could like hold my bladder, but now like I've wet myself a few times. I have to use the bathroom like 12 times a day. And then a lot of times I'll like think I need to use the restroom and I don't, or I don't think I do and I did. Or like I use the bathroom, like I'll go pee, and then I'll immediately like leave, and then realize I need to like go pee again, so go back, and then I'll leave, and then realize I need to like poop right after that. And it was like, so I'm like sometimes in the bathroom, in and out of the bathroom for over an hour. Sometimes I might poop and then leave, and then like 2 minutes later need to go again. So like every GI issue. Please don't ask me too many questions about that. I really don't like talking about it. And I have one last thing here I wrote down on a card. Just to reinforce how bad my memory is, it's less that I'm forgetting things and more now that events lack continuity, is how I put it. Some events that seem minutes apart are sometimes found objectively through documentation or other people's stories, or just like that it doesn't make sense that they are right next to each other. Sometimes I find that those things I thought were right next to each other are hours apart, or sometimes even weeks apart. And then I just don't have memories of any time in between. A lot of times people will tell me about a conversation we had, and I just don't recall it, or I'll like vaguely remember meeting someone, but you know, um, I could probably come up with a handful of examples of all of these. Um, yeah, so I think that's it.